Hi everyone, sorry about all the technical difficulties. Welcome to JPR Day 2022. My name is Caitlin Rowell. I am a third year public relations student here at CSULB, and I will be your host for session one, the game within the game. And Miss Taylor over here to my right will be our chat moderator for the next hour. So in this session, we'll be talking about how us journalists and public relations professionals fit into the world of sports and entertainment. We have a really exciting lineup for you all today, but before we get started, I want to mention that if you guys have any questions for our panelists today, just throw them in the chat. Taylor will make a note of it and we'll ask your questions at the end during our Q&A session. All right, so let's get started. First in our lineup is Alec Palmer, social media manager for the LA Kings. Alec, if you want to mute yourself and tell us a little about yourself and your career, the floor is yours.
So thank you, Caitlin. Yeah, well, excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me. As she said, I'm Alec Palmer. I'm the social media manager for the LA Kings. I've been here since December. I've been an LA resident since New Year's Day. So still kind of getting the ropes out here. Moved out here from Cleveland, Ohio, originally from Pittsburgh. So made that cross country move, and it was pretty exciting. But I'm excited to join the Kings here. And I've had a interesting kind of route that I'm excited to get into later on. But originally came from baseball and the content creation side, and now I've moved over to hockey. And excited to see where the rest of my career takes me. Caitlin, I think you're muted.
Sorry, guys. All right, we're going to move on to down the line to Drew. If you want to tell us a little about yourself, if you want to unmute.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Drew Ruiz. I'm a copywriter at Wieden & Kennedy, New York. That's an advertising agency out here. I used to work in media, so I used to work as an associate editor at Slam Magazine, so kind of worked in the basketball and sneaker space. I tell you the truth, got my hands in pretty much a lot of things. So, summertime, I do stuff with the Drew League. I'm doing stuff, right? Some digital stuff with Uninterrupted. So, just kind of trying to just leverage to see how many different accounts I can work on. On the Wieden side, I work on the McDonald's account. So again, we basically, the best way to sum up what I do is I come with ideas to the table, basically to have, McDonald's buy them, and things of that nature. So on the campaign side, it's very different from media because things move a little bit quicker. But the transition has been fun. I think I'm going on 16 months now. I'm currently living in New York. I'm from LA. I just made the move out, about a month and a half ago. So yeah, class of 2018, and I'm definitely excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Drew. I'm really excited to hear from you. All right, we'll move over to Isis. You want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes. Hello, my name is Isis Roberts, and it's such an honor and a full circle moment for me to be here. A little bit about me. I'm currently the communications and social media specialist at the Herbalife Nutrition Foundation. I'm also a multimedia manager for Players Coalition, and I teach a social media class here. So it's cool to see all the students. A little bit of background about me. I graduated from Cal State Long Beach with a journalism degree in 2011. And I got in the industry really by interning a lot. I did a sports journalism institute program. I interned at a newspaper back in the day. So once I graduated, I actually got hired on at KTLA as a production assistant in the sports department. Stayed there for a little bit, and then I transitioned to the entertainment world, and I worked as a videographer and a video editor for a celebrity news website. So once I was there, that was cool. That was a great experience, but I missed the sports world. So I returned back to the beach and I got my master's in sports management. And that's when I really started to dive into the social media world. Because I had the background in video production, I was able to kind of have that mindset of what content should look like and how we should produce it and what strategies we should use to get that over to social media. So I went on while I was in school getting my master's. I got a job at Special Olympics Southern California as a public relations administrator and a social media administrator. And then I was able to leverage that position and get to where I'm at now, which is at Players Coalition and Herbalife Nutrition Foundation.
Wow. Well, you've done a lot. I'm so happy that you're here today, Isis.
Thank you.
With that, we have Q Sung, if you want to unmute. Very familiar face. Nice to see you.
Hello, nice to see you. Hi, my name is Q Sung Gong. I am a 2013 graduate of CSULB. I teach journalism 240 multimedia storytelling at the department, thankfully. I'm happy to be back in school and happy to be here as well. After I graduated in 2013, I worked as a staff photographer at the Orange County Register about 5 years. I left the Register in 2017, a little late 2017, and then I went off to do freelance photography, and I became frequent freelance photographer for Associated Press, my own employer, Orange County Register, and other papers. I currently still work for AP, LA Times, Orange County Register, and private clients I am not allowed to name, but fortunately I was able to cover a lot of big events like Olympics last year, 5 Oscars, and a Super Bowl this year. So I'm very happy where I'm at right now.
Wow. Great work. I'm so happy that you all are here. Last but not least, we have Matthew Moreno. Matthew, you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Matthew Moreno. I graduated from Cal State Long Beach in 2014. My journalism career sort of began in my final year there. I was taking Gary Metzger's sports journalism class, and I saw him in the chat. An independent website reached out to see if there were any students interested in writing, excuse me, about different teams, and so it was an opportunity for me to cover the Lakers, the Dodgers, and really 2 teams that I grew up watching. I kind of turned that into then writing about USC football for Reign of Troy, which is part of the Fansided network. And that in turn led to an internship with Lakers Nation that started in 2014. It was to fulfill the internship requirement in order to graduate with a journalism degree from Cal State Long Beach. And that's where I've sort of been since then. I've worked my way up. And so now I'm the managing editor of DodgerBlue.com and LakersNation.com, which are sister sites.
Awesome stuff from all of our panelists. I'm so happy to have everyone here. So just quick reminder, if you guys have any, for our audience, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat for Taylor, but let's get into the juicy stuff, shall we? So our first question is, in your guys' experience, how have you seen the world of entertainment and sports collide in the industry? Isis, we'll start with you.
So I work for an organization called the Players Coalition, and it was founded in 2017, which was, if you remember around that time, it was around the time where Colin Kaepernick began to speak out against police brutality. So at the Players Coalition, athletes from across several leagues, they united together to form this organization so that we could have a platform to speak out against social injustices. So historically in the world of sports entertainment, we've seen athletes like Muhammad Ali, Tommy Smith, and even Jim Brown use their platforms to, and the media to fight social issues. But around 2016, we really got this feeling, and that's when I started to really see sports and entertainment collide. It was the shift again, where athletes in today's age started to use social media as their platform to really raise awareness. So, of course, in 2020, the world witnessed George Floyd being killed by police on camera. And that's when I personally, saw sports and entertainment collide. I mean, it was at live sporting events, we had athletes kneeling in solidarity. They were wearing Black Lives Matters t-shirts. Even the WNBA, they helped the state of Georgia become a blue state. So of course, with that came a lot of criticism, especially in the journalism world, where we had journalists telling athletes to shut up and dribble. But athletes seemed like more than ever, they were trying to prove that they were indeed more than an athlete. So as I entered this industry, it was exciting to witness and also play a role in helping athletes use their platforms in the entertainment world to raise awareness and to inspire change. So At the Players Coalition, what we do is athletes leverage their image and their follower amount, and they leverage that to get into the same rooms as lawmakers and policymakers and politicians. So where I come in, I get to kind of capture and report and publish that on social media. So again, that we could reach people who may have never known anything about the topic, if they didn't watch sports, if they didn't follow their favorite athletes. So again, it's just amazing to see the power that sports and entertainment and how they collide, because like I said, because of that, we're just being introduced to not only social issues, but players are using their image to get deals and endorsement deals on social media. So it's been exciting to see. It's been exciting to play a role into that. So that's really my background and how I've kind of witnessed in my professional career sports and entertainment collide.
Right. Yeah, I really like your point on how we're using these social platforms to amplify certain voices, and it's not just about sports or entertainment, that people can really use their platforms for other things rather than being put into that box.
Yeah.
Alec, I see that you're nodding your head a lot. Do you want to add anything?
No, it's just awesome to listen to what Isis had to say. But I can add to the question if you want me to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Well, first off, if you see me waving, I'm in the conference room. It's motion censored, so I'm just trying to get the lights back on. But touching on what Isis said, it's a really awesome thing to see athletes kind of take hold of their platform. And I think it's interesting to watch, some athletes are choosing to, some athletes are not, which is really cool to see, because they do have such an amazing platform and opportunity to influence and affect a lot of people out there. But looking at the link between entertainment and sports, something that I have looked at. So previously, before the Kings, I was at a marketing and content creation agency, specifically in baseball. So we were working with, MLB and MILB athletes, and baseball was traditionally kind of like a more behind the times sport, and it came to content creation and marketing and all of that. So because of that, we had a lot of work to do to work with those athletes and showing hey, here's how you can make yourself relevant. And one of those kind of core pillars we talked about was, right nowadays, you're not just competing. Sports is not just competing with other sports, right? When we're at the Kings, we're not trying to get people to the game, against the Lakers or the Clippers, or, kind of pulling their attention that way. We're actually competing with things like Netflix, especially in LA. You have so many other things to do. You can go to the movies, you can go to tourist attractions, you can go hiking, you can go to the beach. So why are people interested in coming to a Kings game, or why are people interested in watching sports? To me, that's kind of the crux of what sports is, because at the end of the day, sports is entertainment. And when you're so ever connected to everything and have so many different options, it becomes that much more important. So especially, in a market like Los Angeles, where it is the entertainment capital of the world, we're sitting here thinking, okay, we're now not just trying to get people to come out. We're trying to get them to come for the experience, come for that show, because they're so used to seeing that and having that experience when you come to LA. And that's kind of what we're looking at. It's really exciting. It's also pretty difficult. LA is such an interesting, diverse, incredible market, as compared to maybe a more traditional hockey market where it's like, hey, we're playing good hockey, show up. So we have to take that kind of alternate angle. And it's, you see that sports and entertainment just in the question, I was like, collide. And it's a really, really kind of interesting place to be in. And I think it's only going to continue to trend that way in the future as the streaming services pick up, as sports gambling picks up, all these different things. It is becoming more and more about entertainment, which to me, I think is good. I think the sport will always remain true and pure to itself, but it's going to be interesting to see in the next few years just how the sports world evolves and changes, kind of in reaction to the entertainment aspect getting so much bigger.
Right. Thank you so much for Alec and Isis. Moving on to our next question. Our next question is for Drew. In 2020, you were one of the founders at NBA Bubble Life on Twitter. This seems like a great example of how we were just talking about sports and entertainment colliding. Can you talk to us about how NBA Bubble Life got started and what the reaction was to it?
Yeah, it was, it was peak pandemic, so we were shut down. There was no sports. People are still fighting for toilet paper and water. And we're not really doing anything, to tell you the truth. I had just got let go from Slam. So I think it was like unemployed for like 2 months. On a random Thursday, a couple of friends and I in a group chat, we're all hoop heads. So we were talking basketball and things, this, that, and the third. And we were kind of like, what if we made a page that documented everything going on in the bubble? And we were kind of just like, all right, let's do it. We'll separate it 4 ways. We launched a page on I think it was like on a Thursday night. It must have been like 10 p.m. on a Thursday. And it just kind of it caught wind. I mean, we weren't doing anything spectacular other than it was serving as a hub for all things bubble related. And it caught wind. I think, we got over like 9,000 followers in like a day and a half. And then that following Monday, like we hit 30,000. And then within the first 9 days, we hit 100,000 followers organically. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when everybody was reaching out, like, who's behind this account? So we finally did an interview with the New York Times, and then the New York Times kind of blasted our identities. And then after that, we kind of went on a little press tour. But I think the main thing behind NBA Bubble Life was we wanted to shed light on positivity. Again, it was a very dark period following up everything that happened with George Floyd. So we wanted to use our platform again for positivity, and towards the end of the campaign, we signed partnership deals with Tissot and Michelob. We donated $50,000 to the downtown LA Women's Shelter, as well as the Nurses Association out in Central Florida. We just felt, it was our right to do our part. But I mean, the response was great. I mean, to tell you the truth, it was kind of like, we were just kind of riding this wave. Like we were coming out on TV, like everything locally. So I think that was kind of the great part about it. And that's what got me a job at, Wieden and Kennedy right now. So everything just lined up pretty crazy.
Yeah, I really like how you're talking about, I think that's kind of like a full circle moment of what we were talking about earlier, how like using your platform, like you didn't know that NBA Bubble Life was gonna like blow up in that way, or you were gonna be able to do the things that you're doing. So I think that's really cool. To build off of that, actually, I think that's a great example of how social media has created so many subsets of sports groups and fan groups and meme accounts on the internet. I'm gonna move on to Alec. Actually, in your official capacity at the LA Kings, do you interact with these kind of groups that have kind of formed on the internet? If so, how? Or if not, do you think there is a value for teams in these niche subsets for sports fans and content?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do. And that it is a huge value add for teams, especially. I think one thing it can be, you have to be careful for sure, because certain fan groups and different meme accounts just kind of acting from a official team account. There are a lot of players, not even just athletes, but just a lot of people, like relevant parties that what you do and how you behave on that account can affect. So, with that kind of caveat, you do interact with a lot of these accounts. We have such devoted fans, especially Kings fans. They are very proud to be Kings fans, especially in a market like LA, where there are so many dominant sports teams. So they're very intense, they're very passionate. So they really value us connecting and interacting with them. And if you have followed the Kings for a little while, which I'll plug it, you should follow the Kings. You can help me out. But they were kind of the first ones to take sports social and really capitalize on it back in 2011, 12. The Kings Twitter was kind of known as, I can say, I can't take credit for it, obviously, but it's like the OG kind of like, Wendy's, where they were snarky and edgy and sarcastic. And they were kind of the ones. We've had a bunch of different things go on and kind of tweets that have lived on in infamy, I guess you could say. But because of that, we have built such an intensely passionate, connected fan base. we're able to connect with them all the time. And now we're going through this kind of transition from a ton of fans who jumped on when we won the cups in 2012 and 2020 or in 2014. And those fans are now kind of getting older and usually on the millennial or older millennial side. And now we're getting a whole new generation of Gen Z fans. So now we're kind of straddling both of those, trying to figure out how best to interact with them. Whereas, maybe those original fans, they're not interacting or they're not part of those meme accounts necessarily, but they do have very big fan groups. We have our LA Royal Army, we have different fan groups who are very, very proud of those. But then we have our younger Generation Z fans who are just intense. They spam us with like just deep fried memes and fan cams and like all these things, and it's great. So we're able to interact with both sides of those. And I think it is important. However, I would caution saying that it needs to be part of your strategy. I think it's very easy right now in social specifically to kind of jump at the next shiniest thing. Whereas, hey, now all of a sudden now no one is using capital letters in their tweets. And it's like, do we do that? Or now all these teams are doing like really kind of deep, like intensely online memes and jokes. Do we do that? It has to fit your strategy, it has to fit your brand, it has to fit your voice. So however you find that, you have to be able to manage the expectations of those committed long-term fans while still marketing and getting and attracting those newer fans. So you can do that in a bunch of different ways. It's not necessarily a cop-out answer, but you have to be able to, it's kind of case by case. And there goes my lights. But yeah, I would say meme accounts, you interact with fan accounts, you got to be careful, but it has to fit into your strategy.
For sure. We'll see you in a second.
There we go.
Thank you for your response. Also, going back to earlier, if you guys want to plug in any of your projects, feel free. This is your time to shine. Speaking of the younger generation, I want to move on to Matthew. You're kind of a big deal and you are established in your industry. What would you say is something you see in new talent coming in, and like what is something as younger professionals, what do we need to do to have a better grasp or knowledge of, like, what do you want to see from the younger generation?
Yeah, so I mean, I can't fully speak for like other publishers out there, but I know like our content calendar is, I think, a little bit unique in the sense that we publish upwards of like 10 to 12 articles per day, across our websites. And with that, we hope to publish one per hour and then get that pushed out on social media. So it's a little bit different than what you might find like on with a student newspaper or magazine and stuff like that. And so what we have found, maybe the biggest growing learning curve, I guess, if you will, is some of the younger writers that either joined us as interns or just out of college, they're aware of what, the concept of a deadline, obviously coming from a journalism background, but maybe not necessarily how quickly we might need things. And so, kind of early on, we'll ask, hey, how long do you think it takes you to kind of complete a standard news article? And they might say, 30 minutes, which is about average, and that's fine. So then we plan accordingly for that. And then we get into a situation where maybe it's taken them a little bit longer because perhaps they're used to deadlines being a little bit softer. So I just think like in the digital space, especially with sports, things move very quickly. And so if there's kind of a better way to just kind of prepare and know like, hey, I need to be able to write a little bit faster without necessarily sacrificing some of the accuracy and quality of the writing. And that's something that we definitely help them with and grow. But I think that's what I've seen is kind of the biggest difference for young journalists.
So if I could paraphrase, get the writing down right now is what I'm hearing.
Definitely. I think maybe just becoming more comfortable in, like a really fast-paced environment. And again, it could be very specific to just what I'm in sports. And obviously there's games, every day or 2 games every 3 days type thing.
For sure. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on along, guys. All right, so on that note, Kyu-sung, you went to CSULB as a student, as you stated, and you're currently a lecturer here. We're talking about young professionals. What do you want us to take advantage while we're here, like student resources and all the rest?
Sorry. being a student, I personally came back to the school because I wanted to give back, what I got from school, and also because my learning curve was somewhat steep in a way. I honestly learned everything in a hard way, and then it took me a little curve to get me to the spot where I'm at. But I think you need to because most of the students, in the journalism department, their interest is, oh, how do you get this job? And I think as a student, this is where you find your niche and build your portfolio based on, and then when when you graduate, you're more confident with what you're going out, when you go out. So I I think it's this constant, and then there is a community of, the department, the Daily 49er, the PRSSA and the Dig magazine. There is the groups of community that you build out of here. And I think students should really take advantage of that community because I mean, the guys that I graduated with became, I have, I mean, Daniel, and if you remember Jason, Jason works at LA Times, and there are guys working in industry here and there, and you don't know where you're going with this. So you want to build that community. You want to work on your portfolio, find your niche. I have three things I want to mention a lot.
Right on. Thank you. Any other alumni in the chat want to jump in on this question?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think it's you have to leverage your resources because you know what I'm saying. Like, there's just a cool network. Being that it could be something that's posted on, like a student service website. It could be one of your teachers. I know specifically like Gary Metzger he has a sports class. It might be somebody. Hey, we're looking for an internship. We're looking for a part-time writer. Like, you really have to use your resources and pull them in because it's kind of like not necessarily, what are you doing, but it's like, okay, what can you show? How can you use school to get to where you want to get? And I think that's the cool thing when like you're working, if I work at the Daily 49er and I'm trying to be a basketball writer, I'm covering, the Long Beach team. I'm trying to find, I might connect with Matthew and be like, hey, do you guys have any openings for Lakers Nation? I think, again, pulling your resources is very, very huge because it's like, you dig into that pool and then it's like, okay, I met this dude and I met her and I met him and they can help me XYZ. So again, I think it's just like having all your stuff. Yeah, you may not have, my portfolio isn't big, but whatever you have that you work on, have it so it's visible, right? If I talk to a student and he's like, oh, I want to be a sports writer. And I'm like, okay, like, where's your portfolio? Where are your clips? And he's like, oh, well, I don't. Then it's kind of like, well, how are you going to go to a job? And when they ask for that, like, it's not like, oh, well, I don't have it. It's like, okay, hey, here it is. I'm not where I want to be, but this is what I have. This is the type of experience that I'm in, and this is what I want to do. So I think kind of, promoting yourself and helping in that regard, it works out. It's going to work out best in your favor because you got to always realize there's always a pool of candidates, right? You're not just going up against, other kids in your class. Now you're going up against kids from SC, kids from Northwestern, kids from Syracuse, these big time programs. So it's kind of like, all right, what do you have and how can you be a great candidate for that dream job that you want?
And Caitlin, can I piggyback off of that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of students, and this has happened historically, a lot of students wait until after they graduate to get involved. But you have to get involved while you're in school. You have to try to get internships and do programs. And a lot of that might be you working for free. But getting that experience will allow you to kind of really network, but also kind of filter out what you like and what you don't like. When I was in school, it was, that's when people were saying newspapers are dead, newspapers are dead. Well, I got an internship at a newspaper. And I was able to kind of in 2010, kind of see, okay, how do we make this digital thing work? And this was in the very beginning. But, I didn't want to, growing up in the program, you have to take these, journalism writing classes. It wasn't my passion, but through that, I was able to figure out what I really wanted. So, don't be afraid to try things that you may not be interested in, because you might pick up some skills there that you could take to the next level. Also with that, Drew made a good point. You have to network, and networking is not just giving your business card and resume to everyone you see. It's actually really investing time to develop relationships with people who, you may not get anything from, but who knows, down the line, they may refer you to a job that you never even were thinking about. Every single job that I've gotten in my career, I was through word of mouth or someone referencing me, or I using a reference that I knew worked at the company. So never downplay how important. I would go out on a limb and say networking is more important than being in school, because these are the relationships that are really going to help the trajectory of your career. Just because they know you, and then your work ethic will speak for itself. So even if you don't have any experience, work hard, get there early, do above and beyond, because that's going to carry with you as you navigate through your career.
Caitlin, can I chime in as well? It's such great points. I think I'm the only non-CSU Long Beach alum in the panel. So I actually come from probably like quite the opposite. I came from a small Division III college in Cleveland called Baldwin Wallace. We had, with our commuter students, about 4,000 total. And with that, they're presented some similar challenges, but also some very different ones. So I'm an accounting major by trade, and I got my MBA in accounting, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And exactly what Drew and Isis are talking about is, you have to kind of put yourself out there, make those connections. But as important as finding what you want to do is finding what you don't want to do. I took my very first internship was a tax internship because I was an accounting major. And I figured out right away, like day 2, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I hated this. And that was kind of what propelled me to look elsewhere. And then I started a sports internship that summer right after I finished that one. So that kind of led me there. But kind of going back to what Q said, differentiate yourself. I didn't have the traditional marketing or PR journalism background. So I taught myself all the creative kind of elements. I was up late in our studio trying to figure those out, teach myself those. And I wanted to differentiate myself from everybody else who was trying to compete for the same jobs I was. And at that time it was in, more traditional marketing. But I found myself really liking that creative side. And at that time, it was kind of the beginning of the sports creative explosion back in like 2018-ish. And with that, I was able to kind of showcase my skills. And that's how I got, kind of sought after by one of our, at the time when he was in Cleveland, one of the MLB guys. And I started working with him and then went on to work at their agency. So, differentiating yourself, finding, like, as important as finding what you want is finding out what you don't want. And I think above all else is like, yes, networking, I 100% agree, but, just being a good person goes so far in the sports world, because everybody worked with someone else who worked with someone else. And your reputation will start to carry on the further and further you get into your industry. And, I think if you're staying in the 11 o'clock, you'll talk to like my senior vice president, Mike. So, even that, I go somewhere else, he goes somewhere else. Now all of a sudden we're connected back and forth. So, and then the final thing, I don't mean to ramble, is stuff like this is please, reach out. I know I'll speak for myself, is reach out to us, follow us, connect with us on LinkedIn. And, I've spoken on, a decent amount of these. And I still talk with those students who have reached out. They have questions, resumes, cover letters, things like that. So, just take every advantage and build those genuine connections.
Thank you, guys. If I may just kind of respond to all of you. I think personally, we kind of get caught up in like the instant gratification of it all and just wanting to see our work pay off for us. But what I'm hearing from you guys is that you have to make the effort to network and you have to put yourself out there. I think since the pandemic, putting yourself out there is a little bit harder and harder to navigate through like post-pandemic world. But I think sessions like this is a great reminder that there is other ways to do so. So again, I just want to say thank you guys for joining and kind of putting that into perspective for us. All right. My next question is for Isis. So we heard about like what we can do now, but what's in store for us in the future? How do you see sports, entertainment, esports collaborating and moving forward into the future?
I think Alec said this in the beginning. You know, sports is entertainment. You know, this week alone, we've seen NFL player Antonio Brown. He dropped a music video. He's trying to be a rapper now. And we've seen rappers and entertainers want to be athletes. So I think with social media, we're going to witness much more of that because social media allows people, regular people like you and I, to have access to these athletes and to these entertainers. So I think, you know, these athletes are going to, and we're seeing it now, they're playing this role of influencers. So they could, like I said, they could do paid posts, paid advertisements. And so with that, as journalists, that just presents so many more career opportunities for us. I mean, we see esports, we see what's going on at Twitch and TikTok and sports betting. And then you add every social media platform that you can think of, that just presents so many more job opportunities that we may have not thought of before traditionally. So I think it's a good time for you all, especially as students, to get involved in this entertainment and sports world, because like I said, there's just so many different avenues that you could take. I think, you know, when you're growing up in the program, you just hear about those main jobs as what sports reporter, GM, you know, you hear these big titles, but there's so many more things that you could do that we just may not know about. And so the good thing about panels like this, you know, we're able to have conversations with you and kind of introduce you to jobs that you may have never thought of. For example, I work at Herbalife Nutrition Foundation, and I actually work with project managers, which I've never had done before. And they're kind of like the middleman who they serve as a liaison between myself and maybe like a video editor or a video or a graphic designer. So things like that, where you may have never thought, you know, could be your career, that's, you know, that's a perfect route that you could take, especially if you're organized and you have great communication skills. So I think just along with, as everything starts to evolve, and that's a good thing too. Nothing's the same. You know, who would have thought 5 years ago that TikTok would be the platform that everyone's going crazy over? So in this social media world, in this digital world, it's ever evolving. So take advantage, ride the wave, you know, try things that you may have never been interested in because you never know where it's going to take you. But I definitely think that we're seeing it's a great time for us, just because there's, like I said, there's so many different routes that we could go in this world.
Right. Before we move into our last question for this portion, does anyone else want to add anything to piggyback off of Isis? Not a problem. All right. So our last question is kind of a recap all over question. How can young professionals just starting out in journalism or public relations better prepare themselves for careers in the world of sports, esports, and entertainment? We can start with Drew.
Cool. I think one of the most important things is kind of like have an idea and narrow down what it is, you know, you want to exactly do. I feel a lot of times, you know, when kids reach out, I had somebody reach out a couple of weeks back. Somebody was like, I want to work in sports, and I think you could help me get my foot in the door. And it was kind of like, bro, like, okay, what? Like, I'll help out, but I'm not a stepping stool to get to where you want to get. You know what I'm saying? So I think one of the biggest things is like narrow down what it is exactly you want to do. And I think that the great thing about being a journalism major is like, I've been able to take this and apply it, you know, to advertising. And it's like, it's crazy because I never went to advertising school. I've never taken an advertising class, but yet, you know, I'm at one of the top ad agencies, you know, with a journalism career. And I think it's very important really just to narrow down, you know, get your foot in the door. I always tell people, you know, experience is your best teacher. There's nothing that, you know, a book can show you to prepare you for your career path, sometimes you're going to get thrown out to the fire. Sometimes it's sink or swim sometimes, and you'll start to see when your back's against the wall and you're kind of like, oh, like, I don't remember this in being in school. And it's just like, hey, on the fly, like, can you do it? And I think a lot of times it's like really preparing for that next chapter for you. Hey, maybe you want to get to your dream job. And maybe when you get there right out of college, maybe that dream job isn't what you expected, right? The grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I think I've learned that throughout my career. And one of the things is like, put in the work. I always tell, a lot of people when I get asked this question is like, it's all about reps. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, you got to put in 10,000 hour rule, or like, Kanye's 5 beats for 5 beats a day for 3 summers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really, really got to hone your craft. So that a point where it's like, it's kind of second nature. To the point where, I'm a journalism major. Yeah, I can whip out a cool feature story, but I can write tweets as well. You know what I'm saying? I can write tweets for McDonald's. I can write tweets for Uninterrupted. I can write tweets for Talent. You know what I'm saying? And without missing a beat. And I think that's probably the number one important thing I try to tell people is like, really, really hone your craft. What is it that you want to do? And just apply. You're going to get told no more than yes throughout your career. And that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? But you can't be afraid to get told no. So I feel, that's probably the best way I can answer that question.
I 100% agree. Matthew, do you want to jump in on this one? Give us some advice from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it too redundant, but I know Alec and Drew both hit the nail on the head, and even Isis with the networking. The worst thing that can happen is somebody, says, no, I don't really have an opportunity for you right now, or you don't hear back. And, you just kind of take those lumps. We've all been there, and you keep going. You look for other opportunities. I think one good thing, being at Cal State Long Beach, you're in kind of the greater LA area, and the way things have kind of shifted over the past, decade now into more of a digital space is you don't necessarily need to leave the area to find, maybe a career path that you'd want to do, especially now, since the pandemic, a lot of models have shifted to more of a hybrid or work from home. And yeah, there is no substitute for hard work. I think that's something that we all in this panel, I'm sure a lot of students kind of pride themselves on. And one thing for me personally is, I think you can look to other people in the industry, whatever field you want to get to, and sort of draw inspiration from them, but don't get caught up in trying to do what they do. Trust your own work, like be yourself and just put your best foot forward. And ultimately that will open up the doors for you. And you can't get caught up in, I want to have the perfect job in a month from now, because life unfortunately doesn't work that way. But if you keep taking, different bites at the apple and improving on yourselves and growing your portfolio, like eventually you can get there.
I agree with all of the points you guys have made. Q, do you want to add anything before we move on in the session?
Yeah, of course. So based on just a little thing last, what Matthew said was, so being yourself is very important. I think whatever the journalism and media industry we're going into, it just requires more personality now. Everybody has technology. Everybody, has pretty much the similar information. Now it's about personality and show your personality, grow, show your more knowledge that you have, or show more interest that you, or passion that you have that, not many people have. And I think that's where you want to express yourself out to.
For sure. Oh. All right. So right now we're going to be move on into the Q&A portion soon, but right before we do that, Alec or Isis, any last comments on that last question?
Oh, sorry. You want to go, Alec?
Sure. Just quick. I think, looking at what Q and Matt said, being yourself, I think that, now more than ever, businesses aren't hiring resumes, they're hiring people. And, you can put whatever you want on your resume. You can have the most impressive resume in the world, but if you're not yourself, if you're not, a good person, someone to work with, and, who's committed, that can really harm you and kind of hinder your career. So I think at the end of the day, your resume can get you in the door, but then it's who you are that really helps you succeed and kind of keeps you on that pathway in your career.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna say. I have a coworker that actually just started this month, and I knew we had a connection because I used to work with one of her friends, and so her friends referred her to me just to have a conversation. And she was telling me, she's like, "Yeah, I applied for this job in October, and I've been in the interview process ever since." And what she noted was that, yeah, they wanted to make sure I was a good fit with the company. So that means they wanted to make sure that she was good, you know, so that she fit the work culture. And, you know, like everyone was saying, like, it's not just about what's on your resume. It's like, do you get along with everyone? Are you a great team player? Are you just looking out for you? Or are you wanting to make sure that everyone succeeds? So I think, you know, being a good person, going above and beyond, really think about what kind of environment you want to work in. You know, do you want to work in a stressful environment where everyone's cussing each other out? Or do you want to work somewhere where you feel welcome and you welcome people as well? So that's really, you know, that's the number one question I think people are asking in interviews now is what's the work culture like? And so you want to figure out what role can you play with that? How can you make a difference in that setting, knowing what you know with what we've said?
Definitely, I've been working and I hate like bad work culture. It's definitely something that I have an eye out for. All right, so we're going to be opening up to the Q&A session from the questions from the audience. If the audience members haven't posted your questions in the chat already, post them now. We'll get to you shortly. Taylor is going to be taking over right now.
So hello, you guys. So the first question we have is from Joseph Fan. He's a PR major. This is to all of you. How have you struggled as a writer? If so, how did you improve?
I guess I should probably take that one first. I think a lot of it is just writing as much as you possibly can and submitting it to your professors and asking for feedback, or even journalists if you want to go in whatever industry maybe you want to cover. I know some are receptive to if you email them and kind of tell them, you know, hey, I'm a student here. This is what I want to get into. Like, would you mind just sort of reviewing it if they have the time? Maybe it won't necessarily be instant feedback, but they will be willing to provide it to you. But really, you know, practice, like I can't emphasize that enough. And like I said, I got my start at an independent sports journalism website where I could write, you know, as much or as little as I wanted. And so I made sure to really take advantage of that and write as much as possible about the teams that I chose to cover. And I would then, you know, get feedback from the editors there. And then, you know, you kind of learn, and also reading other people in the industry. Again, you don't want to necessarily copy them, but you can at least see, you know, kind of what their style and what their structure is and how they sort of format things.
Thank you, Matthew. Anyone want to add anything else?
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, it was like early on, I'm not gonna lie, I think my background, you know, heading into slam was different because I was at slam and I had yet to take a journalism class. You know, so I kind of felt like I was experiencing imposter syndrome for a little bit. And I think that was kind of tough because I'm like, you know, here I am, this kid, I don't know what the inverted pyramid style is, writing for, you know, a big publication, but I can't piss away this opportunity. Like, somebody vouched for me to get this opportunity, and I got to come through. So I think, you know, kind of just it boils down to just reps, you know, write, like, you know, take everything that you've learned and just, you know, apply it. You know, I can get a story out. I can be the fly on the wall and tell you what's happening, you know. And I think one of the biggest things, you just always want to polish your skills. You know, like Matt said, I think, yeah, I have, you know, some of my favorite sports writers out there that, you know, I'll still tend to read from time to time, not as much anymore, but, you know, just to see how they articulate something. I think it's great. You know, you could have, especially when, you know, let's say at a basketball game, you have 15, 20 different writers and you'll get 15, 20 different stories because it comes all from their unique perspective, you know. But again, it boils down to really honing your craft and, you know, putting in that work to be the writer that you want to be. You know, it's always funny when I look back and I see, you know, a first article that I published in like 2013 to see, you know, where I was at. I think the last thing I might've posted was like 2020. And that's a big 7-year gap. And I'm like, like, wow, like it's completely night and day. But then it goes back to just, I was trying to take anything and everything and just write. And that's how I got, from point A to point B over the last 7 years.
Taylor, I think you're muted.
Okay.
Oh, this one is for anyone. So Crystal asked, how can someone get an internship as a senior? It's been very hard for her to get one since they all want experience.
One of the things that I recommend is really trying to build up your resume, especially if you're lacking experience. One of the ways you could do that is by taking certification classes, learning on, I call YouTube University. But for example, Facebook has a free certification class. It only costs if you want to take the exam, but all the courses and classes are free. And what it is it teaches you Facebook marketing. If you want to enter the social media or digital marketing world, it gives you all the beginner classes. I'm looking right now. Let's see, I'm looking at the free online classes they have. But Facebook has Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger. So they have all these classes that kind of introduce you into that social media world if that's what you want to do. So doing things like that, getting a certification, going to YouTube to develop skills. I remember last year I applied for a job and one of the requirements was email marketing. Now I have now I have experience, but at the time I had no experience in email marketing. So I went on YouTube and started at that. What does an email marketer do? And I'm watching all these videos and I'm learning and I'm like, okay, I could add that as a skill if I practice and fine tune it. So if you're having trouble because you don't have experience, then find other ways to pad your resume. So by doing that, by doing certifications, I think you guys have access to LinkedIn Learning. Take those classes. Linda has free classes. So do things on that end to kind of offset what you don't have in experience. And also at the same time, that will help you kind of get professional experience that kind of works as like a trade. You're getting experience as a trade. So I think that's a good start to kind of help fill in that void. And then the rest is kind of networking. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. So maybe you can't get in the door, but maybe you know someone else that could refer you to someone else that knows someone else. So I think, having those conversations is that's kind of a cheat code to kind of help you at least get in the door and get into the right faces. So that way they could be the ones that could give you your first, years of experience. So I think, those three things could kind of help you make the process a little bit more easier, because I know how difficult it is. We were all students. We all know, everyone's like, we want experience. And we're like, I've seen jobs that are like, we want 15 years experience in social media. And I'm like, social media has not even been around that long. You know what I mean? So we know how frustrating it is. So you kind of have to figure out these back doors and kind of cheat codes on how to get in the door otherwise. I'm going to put the Facebook program in the chat just because I think it's such a great start, especially if you're interested in digital marketing or social media marketing. It's so many free tools and resources out there. And I think if you start with that, that could kind of help you kind of navigate your career a little bit more easier. Oh, you're on mute again, Taylor.
Thank you so much for listing all those resources. I'm sure everyone's going to appreciate it. So the next question is from Aaliyah. How do you know which area is right for you? How did you guys know which niche in sports and entertainment suited you best?
I can start. I don't think, I'll speak for myself. Like, I had no idea until I started doing things. Like I said, I graduated with a BA in accounting, like obviously it's not sports or marketing or anything at all. And my first sports internship, I did everything. It was minor league soccer, and I did everything from clean toilets to perform as the mascot on game day to help be in the meeting room while they're brokering their new Adidas jersey deal. So I was able to do all of those different things. And my second job in sports, it was working at my college and starting the sports creative for all of our our baseball, men's basketball, different things like that. And then was at an agency. And I still feel like I'm still figuring that out now at the Kings. And you find, I think it might have been Matthew or Q from or a couple questions ago, just saying you got to learn from each experience you have and take that nugget of information and whatever that is. I think one of the kind of misconceptions is that your first job is going to be your dream job. And while that may certainly be true for some people, it's most likely not going to be true. And it's not necessarily pessimistic, but there's just a lot that goes on that you just don't know, that, the shine can wear off certain things, and you might like it at first, then you get really into the nitty gritty and you don't, or it goes the opposite way. So I would just say, don't put so much pressure on yourself. I know it's easier said than done, because I did the same thing coming out of college. It was like, I got to find my perfect job right away, or I'm going to be unhappy. And it's like, I loved my first job. But after 2.5 years there, I started to realize that's not exactly what I wanted to do. And I don't regret it. I don't think that is a waste or anything, but you have to learn from that and move on. And I think there's actually another question I saw it earlier, was talking about, how do you get to a big brand or a big agency or something like that? Again, I'll speak for myself, is that there are a lot of valuable experiences. You don't just have to work for a large agency or a large sports team or anything like that. You can do incredible work at all levels of sports creative marketing, from startup to Fortune 100 company. So I would say, again, take those experiences, take those learnings, and just continue to develop, always be learning, and always, want to put your best foot forward and continue that throughout your career.
Thank you, Alec. So I think we have time for one last question. Drew asked, how was it like moving? Oh, this one is for Drew. How was it like moving to the East Coast as far as networking goes? Did you have to meet new people, or with being in the digital age, was it one of the network based on the web?
That's a great question. I think, for me, being born and raised in LA, I was 30 years in LA. I kind of just networked throughout, the basketball and sneaker community space. And I met so many people who were from New York. When I was freelancing for Slam, they're a New York-based company. So I would have conversations with people from New York. People at brands were in New York, whether that was, the Nikes, Adidas, whatever the case may be. So it was like, I knew so many people within the media space. So I think when the opportunity presented itself, when I got the job at Wieden & Kennedy, they were like, hey, what are your thoughts on relocating? And I was like, well, if the opportunity is right, I'm willing to do it, because again, I'm born and raised in LA, and I would like something new. And who wouldn't want to go to New York for an opportunity? So I think that the networking for me, it was like, I had already known people. So it's kind of like a plug and play. I'm just kind of getting used to living out here and, dealing with life without a car, but it's not like I don't know anybody. I still know a lot of people within, currently in advertising, and then, other people within the media space. So I feel it's just like, I'm opening my network basically on the East Coast. I feel that's probably the best way I can answer that.
Okay, now I'm gonna give it back to my.
All right, we do have to wrap up. Unfortunately, I feel like we could talk amongst ourselves all day, but I just want to highlight some key points that you guys made throughout the session. One, sports is entertainment. I think we've made that really clear in going into the future and coming into the industry. Obviously, something that was talked a lot was finding your niche and building your portfolio, taking advantage of resources while we're in school, because we are in like the best target demographic to put ourselves out there. With that, also networking. Obviously, I think that's the biggest thing to do. This is a great networking opportunity. Like we mentioned earlier, all of our panelists' socials and how to get in contact with them is in the chat somewhere. We can compile those for you guys later. Also work hard and just be genuinely a good person and be yourself, and you'll find the right spot for you in your career. And I think that's really important. Also, while we're in school, obviously, to take advantage of our professors and sessions like this where we can get criticism and advice, and I think that's something we take for granted. And moving forward, I definitely personally will be putting myself out there a little bit more. Before we go, I have a couple people we want to thank. We obviously want to thank our panelists. Thank you guys so much for giving us the time and giving us insight and really good advice today. We want to thank the JPR team for making today happen. Shout out to Juan, Kaylee, Giselle, Juliana, America, Cameron, and to my co-host Taylor. Our advisors, Jennifer Newton, Robin Jones, and Jennifer Fleming. And shout out to Dan Olson, who's currently on vacation right now, but is still helping us with tech. So yeah, that's it for session 1. Session 2 will be beginning shortly in the same Zoom link. So if you guys want to join us shortly, that'd be great. Thank you to our panelists. See you around.
All right, it's 11:02, so we're going to get started. Hello, JPR Department, and welcome to JPR Day 2022. My name is Taylor Aldape. I am a fourth-year PR Public Relations student, and I'm your host for Session 2, A Winning Mindset, How to Succeed in Sports and Entertainment. My partner, Caitlin, is here with us as well, and she'll be moderating during our session. For this session, we'll be discussing a winning career in sports and entertainment and how it starts with a winning mindset. The panelists will talk about how they built their successful careers in the business, what they learned along the way, and what we can do to land jobs like theirs. We have an amazing all-star lineup. Today with us, we have Christina Poncher. Christina is a reporter and a host for Top Rock Boxing on ESPN. Next, we have Michael Altiri. He's the Senior Vice President and Marketing for the LA Kings. But certainly not least, we have Mark Altiri, his brother, joining with us, who is a co-founder of the Brand app. Like I mentioned earlier, Caitlin will be looking over the chat, so please, any JPR students, leave any questions you have for our speakers during the session, and we'll answer those during the Q&A, which is at the end. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Can each of you introduce yourself? We'll start with Christina. Can you please tell the JPR students more about the positions you hold, your connection to Cal State Long Beach, and what got you started in the industry?
Sure. Thank you, Taylor, and everybody for having me. Like Taylor said, my name is Christina Poncher. I graduated from Long Beach State in 2008. I was a journalism major with my option in broadcasting, and I did my minor in communications. I think Long Beach State helped set me up perfectly for my career, as did my internship that I took during my time at Long Beach State, which we'll get into more of later. But I am currently the only female play-by-play in the sport of boxing, both nationally and internationally, but started off as a reporter in Southern California, worked my way up, and now currently doing boxing play-by-play for Top Rank, Sky Sports in the UK, and ESPN.
Thank you so much, Christina, for introducing yourself. Mark, can you go next?
Sure. Hey, everybody, I'm Mark Altiri, and I am a co-founder at the Brand Amp. We're an integrated marketing agency. So we do public relations, social media, influencer marketing, video content, and what's our last one? Events and promotions. And I oversee half of our PR department, and I run and oversee our content and video production department. And I kind of serve as a creative director at the agency. I was a 97 major and graduate at Cal State Long Beach. My minor was marketing, and my passion is just getting to be creative in what we do, whether it's PR ideas and stunts or marketing campaigns or video concepts. I just love the creative kind of left brain side of things, and love what I do.
Thank you, Mark. Michael?
Hi, Taylor. Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone here today and to join Mark and Christina. Mike Altiri, been with the LA Kings since 1995, graduated from Cal State Long Beach in 91. I majored in communications with a minor in PR. That time was a great experience for me, as I had gone back to school to pursue a career in sports. And my time at the school gave me confidence in my journalistic abilities, PR abilities, and communication sides of things, and really set the stage and gave me the fundamentals I needed to be successful. Been with the Kings now this is my 27th year currently. Started out in PR, specific to communications, PR, everything interface with the team, management, coaching, and has slowly evolved into a role now where I'm heading up basically all consumable content for the Kings. Anything you can experience as a Kings fan, whether it be the live experience, our marketing, communications, broadcast, all funnels up through me currently. So excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you all for introducing yourself. You all have such an amazing resume and successful careers in the sports and entertainment. So we're all excited to hear anything you have to give to the students. So now I'm going to be asking each of you questions, but if you have like anything you want to chime in, just go ahead and feel free to. So, but for this question, I'm going to go ahead and start with Mark. Sports and entertainment are notoriously competitive and tough fields. What qualities do you look for when hiring new talent for your teams?
Good question. Definitely, hopefully some information here that can help everybody, because it really, a lot of it comes down to first impressions and, the interviews and, the statement you make for yourself. For me, a lot of the people that we're looking to hire, and I don't care if it's PR position, social media position, video content position, I am looking for natural communication skills. I'm not a big resume guy. I want to meet somebody, I want to get their vibe, and I want to really read their personality and really get an idea of their personal traits, the stuff their mom and dad gave them, So for me, I'm looking, do you have really natural communication skills? Are you comfortable and confident when you interview with me? Are you dynamic and animated in the way you phrase things? I think that's a really key thing for me. I want to see, I can kind of tell through personality, how animated, dynamic, creative, unique a person is. Second, I want to find passion. I want to see somebody that's excited at the notion of doing what they're trying to do. I want that to come through. So I want people to be excited and passionate about being in front of me for an interview and talking about the craft. And then the last thing for me is work ethic and kind of looking for an old school mentality. And I don't want to sound like the old curmudgeon, but generationally, things have changed a lot, and I think that I grew up and the really key traits were grinding and the old adage, paying your dues. And I really want to see people that I can tell have a motor, that they're willing to go above and beyond the call, and they're not looking for something on the way in, that they're willing to come in and they're willing to just grind it out, be a pack mule and just take on work over and above what's expected. That's when rewards are given, in my opinion. That's when you earn things. Is a lot of people come in and, I love it. I love modern encouraging parenting for anybody who's going to instill in their children and in people that they're awesome. But I like humility. It's a trait that I look for in people, to come in the door and just say, hey, listen, I'll take what you give me and I'll over deliver, knowing that old school ethic, that ability to grind and pay your dues is going to be rewarded. And at the Brand Amp, we treat people like that, like gold. When we see that willingness to do more, people asking for more, hey, what else can I be doing for you? Those are people that rise quickly in our organization. So I'm really looking for kind of that no nonsense, old school stuff. Might surprise you that I haven't mentioned technical stuff related to PR or these types of things. My attitude is, that's your ticket into the show, right? Anybody can attain that. You go to school, you do the work, you should be able to understand that acumen and speak to it and implement it well. What I'm looking for is stuff that you don't read in a book. And again, it's all about personal character and your passion for what you want to be doing, and your ability and desire to do what you've got to do to be great.
Thank you, Mark. So my next question, I'm going to go, this again is for all of you, but I'm going to start with Christina. What is the most important thing students who want to enter the sports and entertainment industry can do right now to improve their prospects?
From a student's perspective, and speaking from my own personal experience, I think the most important thing as far as the broadcast industry is concerned is trying to get an internship. Try to get that hands-on experience while you're in school, while you can get school credit for it, and make those connections with people. And, you know, just like Mark said, let them see your work ethic and your drive and your desire to learn as much as you can during that internship. Have that yes mentality, whether it's, you know, the old school, like getting coffee or making copies, to, you know, running cable, to booking porter potties, whatever the case may be. Do whatever you can to kind of show them your work ethic and your dynamic, so that when you do graduate, you can kind of circle back with those people, and hopefully you've made an imprint to where they remember you, to where it can possibly lead to, if not a job, a letter of recommendation, or an interview with somebody that may be better suited for you. So I think an internship by far is the most important thing that students can do, but also talk to people, talk to your network, talk to family, talk to friends. I got my internship from the restaurant that I worked at, and I was always talking about sports, and we had sports on our TV, and I had a customer like, wow, you really know a lot about sports. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And have you ever had an internship? No, but I'm looking for one. Well, here's my card. And then he worked for the Lakers PR department at the time, or the Clippers PR department. And, you know, just from there, I worked my way to a internship with Fox Sports West, who was at the time, and Prime Ticket was the Lakers and Clippers broadcast partner. So talking about what you want to do, being passionate about what you want to do, getting an internship, and then keeping up to date with the headlines, keeping up to date with the news, keeping up to date with the field that you're passionate about, whether particularly if it's sports or it's news, so that when you do get the opportunities, you don't have to study and rack your brain about things that are going on that you're typically going to be asked in an interview, or and keep up with your social media as well. I think developing a presence there, going out to different places and starting to get reps in on a resume reel and building those things. I mean, some of the reporters and hosts today, as I'm sure Michael can attest to, are people that have just started building their own platforms on their own social media and their own YouTube. It's not like you have to have a journalism degree anymore to be an in-arena host or an on-camera host for a team or a reporter. It's someone that's charismatic in front of the camera, has knowledge, and is able to build their own platform and following as well. So I think those are all things right now that you don't need to have a degree to be able to do.
Yeah, I'll just second that, because internships, they're just, that was the critical path for me. Michael knows. And I would say, look for windows of opportunity. Michael was already walking the path with Forum Sports when I was in school. I was able to make contacts through Michael, and then obviously through Emma, who was an incredible mentor for me. And in school, I had an internship at Hill and Knowlton, one of the biggest PR agencies in the world, and at the Lakers at the time. And lo and behold, the day I graduated, I had a full-time job. My first day at Hill and Knowlton was the day after graduation.
Wow.
So I think you can't take for granted your career starts now. And like Christina said, getting into internships and getting into the workflow before you graduate, it's a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, I'll finally chime in on there as well. It'll be the same message, but yeah, it's the time to hustle in the beginning for sure, and maximize every opportunity you can to communicate with people in the industry. For one, I get outreach from students all the time who just want to have an informational interview. They're not asking for a job, and I give them that time. I just, because I remember what it was like, and I've made that commitment in my career to give people that time, even if it's 15 minutes just on a video chat like this, and someone reaches out and is willing to give me time, set up a time, stick to it, and I'll give them 15 minutes of my time to give them some advice, and there's a new relationship. Now, that's not going to happen with everybody, but if you reach out to 10 people in the industry, you might get 2 hits, and then that's going to give you 2 relationships you didn't have. Also seeking any way to get experience. Internships are definitely great, but there's a lot more red tape to go through these days to get internships. And so even part-time opportunities with us, with live events and Kings games, we have so many part-time positions at games. A good example is Carlin Bathe, who's now our current host and reporter for LA Kings games. She started out on the LA Kings ice crew, And she was an ICE crew member, had just a terrific personality and energy. She then became an in-arena host, like Christina was talking about,
Okay.
hosting at all of our games, and became a personality with all the fans at games, and then started doing her own content on social media. And then we had an opportunity open up for a reporter / host. Boom, she gets that opportunity. So, but she hustled the whole way and is well deserved of where she's at now.
Oh, that's an amazing story. So we're definitely, that kind of leads into my next question. You know, we're definitely taught it's all about who you know in this industry. What are other ways that you guys think that students can start to build their networks in this industry if they just don't already have the connections? Christina, if you want to start.
I kind of feel like the last question, this question somewhat go together, because making those connections through an internship, applying, looking for internships, also, you know, reaching out to people. Social media has made it so much easier for people to have direct access to contacts that maybe before they would have never been able to reach out to. And I'm not saying that there's probably not, with some of these people, hundreds of messages in their inbox, but I feel like it's always important to put your message out there, or your desires to say, hey, if I can even just have an email back and forth Q&A, or if I can set up a conversation with you just to pick your brain with other people that are in the position that you want to be in. I think that's a good way to work your way in, and to set up those relationships as well. Just make sure that you're direct with what you're looking for. I think even now it's important to, hey, I'm a student, this is what I'm studying, this is what I'm looking for. I'm super driven. You're in a position that I want to be in. If I could just have a few minutes of your time just to pick your brain, and I have some questions already prepared, because time is of the essence, especially for professionals. And if you leave it open-ended, or you need an hour of their time, you're unlikely to get as much of a response, I feel like. So if you kind of say, hey, if I can get 10 minutes of your time, 15 minutes of your time, or get some tape together and try to, you know, send it, use your professors, or send it to, you know, different people online. Here's a link to my work. Let me know what you think. I'm working on this X, Y, and Z. You know, having your ducks in a row before you try to make those contacts will really help, I think, garner a better response from people that you're trying to network with.
Thank you, Christina. Mark, Michael, do any of you want to add anything else?
Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, Christina's right. It really is a follow through of the previous question, you know, and what we were talking about, that, you know, you don't know how many times I encourage people to reach out directly to me or through the department. The Brand Amp works with Cal State Long Beach and Cal State Fullerton on internships, and how few people actually take that initiative often blows my mind. You'd be surprised if you just step up and take the initiative. And so many, I'd say 90% of the people that intern with us obtain full-time jobs through that. So, you know, it's just about taking initiative and, you know, having the courage and the drive to just get in front of people, like Christina said, and be focused and specific, and that'll shine through to people. It'll make an impression.
The other thing I'll suggest too is, I see Denise Ng here had a comment that she searched several websites such as Dodgers, Lakers, and Clippers looking for internships, but didn't see anything available. What I would suggest to do too is, when you're on those websites, look at the front office structures. Go in and you can actually look at the front office, and you'll see how organizations are laid out, all departments and the leaders in each department, and the names are right there. Now you have to figure out find a way to source their email. A lot of times, like with me, it's first initial, last name at lakings.com. It's not that hard. So a lot of organizations have that. If identify somebody that has a position you think you'd like to strive or aspire to be, and try to connect and reach out through email or through communication platforms. So like Christina touched on, it's a lot easier to engage with people now through social media and through email. So you know, that'd be one suggestion I would have.
And to Mike's, if I can just double back on that too, looking up the different positions and things like that. I took a position as an intern, but then took a paid position after I graduated in the operations department. I had no desire to work in operations, but I knew it was my way to get my foot in the door and for people to see my work ethic and what I did. So I was booking crew, booking porta potties. I'd volunteer to run cable. I'd volunteer to help set up cameras, whatever I could, so that they could see my work ethic. I could be around the bosses and be around people that I needed to be on, because I knew if I could just get my foot in the door and they could see my passion, see what I wanted to do, that would lead to opportunities. So don't hesitate to perhaps take a position or an opportunity that maybe is not exactly what you want to do, but it's a way for you to get your foot in the door and get recognized, so that when eventually the opportunity does present itself, you already have made those contacts and that connection. So that ask to maybe shadow another talent, or that ask to go out on a shoot, is like a no-brainer for them, because they trust you, because they've seen what you can do in another capacity. So don't just limit yourself to only one position or one way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add there, and it's riffs off of what you just said, is it's one thing to be focused and say, all right, I want to do this for a living for this organization, and it's exactly what I want to do. Okay, that's great. All right. But I often, I found, and I think it is valuable to be malleable, flexible with your plan. Like she said, get in the fishbowl you want to be in. That should be your first priority, is an industry or a specific type of realm that will be fulfilling for you every day you get up to go to work. And then that's job one, is to get into an area you know is going to really make you feel good and you're going to enjoy. From there, let the path take you where it takes you. You just don't know which window of opportunity is going to be open. It may not be the one you've got your crosshairs on. And if your path isn't too narrow, you can miss opportunities that might have led you to things that, you're not Nostradamus, right? Like, you're not like a psychic. You don't know where it's going to go. Let life lead you, and let things bend and twist and turn. You may find yourself somewhere you didn't expect to be, but far greater than you expected and imagined. So I say, be malleable and let things develop.
Thank you all. So this next question is for Michael. You mentioned earlier that you've been with the LA Kings for 27 seasons, which is completely unheard of these days. To what do you attribute to your longevity working for this team?
I guess if I could hone in on one thing, it would be, I've always focused on, from day one, I've always focused on building trust. And I feel the most successful way to build trust with other individuals is to give them the confidence that your priority is to contribute to their success. And so in any role I've served here at the organization, I've worked for 3 CEOs, 4 presidents, 4 general managers, countless head coaches. I've always taken that approach that I'm here to help you be successful. And I think if you help others be successful, you will be successful long term. So I would say building that trust and getting people to have a confidence in you. And then what that ends up is turning into is a belief in you to give you opportunity, I think is critical.
That's huge, Michael. And I think that, it's funny, this is going to sound a little crass, but I think that selflessness and the desire to help others is a selfish act. You should look at it that way. And the reason is this: that's where rewards come back to you. Every single person you invest of yourself or give of yourself, make a sacrifice for, and try to help, that's going to come back to you. That person's going to do something for you. The karma, just the vibe it creates for you, will end up generating positive opportunities for you. So you got to look at that generosity, that sacrifice, and that selflessness as almost a selfish and strategic act, because it will yield better things for you. And at the same time, you're helping other people big time. So it's got a win-win.
Thank you. Christina, do you want to add anything to what attribute to your longevity in the career in the sports world?
I think for me, it's just been doing the work, putting in the work, and making sure that you don't cut corners, and also the way that you carry yourself, the relationships that you build, the reputation that you have is really important. Our industry and getting interviews and opportunities with these people, there's 50 other media members there. Why should I want to talk to you? Or why should I want to give you the exclusive? Or why would I open up and trust you? And that's part of that comes from just building that experience and building those relationships. And I think as a woman in a male-dominated industry, how you carry yourself is really important. And we almost have to work harder than our male counterparts do, simply because how can I phrase this in the most, it's expected for a man to be in those positions. It's not always expected for a woman. So if you're there, sometimes they assume that it's either because you know somebody, you're in a relationship with somebody, you're attractive, or someone's taking a chance on you. It's not always because you've earned the right to be there. So as long as you put in the work and you prove them otherwise, I think you can definitely have longevity in any, and that's not only in sports, but I think that's just in whatever career you choose in general.
Yes, that's true. So just to, if anyone didn't hear, because this question is also for Christina. Christina has made his sports history and was a part of the first all-female broadcasting team for boxing. Christina, what do you think the sports industry needs to improve on in order to be more inclusive to women?
Well, I mean, I think whatever we're doing right now, I can't speak for the entire sports world, but it's working because you have more women in positions anywhere from play-by-play to reporter, more so now than ever before. You have some simulcasts during different games where you have an all-woman broadcast that you can listen to. So I think that we're headed in the right direction. I just think that it's important to build a strong foundation. I think it's important to put in the work, carry yourself in a way that is professional, build your social media, give them something to see that shows the substance and the knowledge and the credibility that you possess. And, don't take no for an answer right away. And don't doubt yourself. Have confidence. I mean, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, in the sense of, yeah, I can do this. Even if, the first time I got a play-by-play opportunity, I literally drafted the email declining the opportunity because I did not feel that I was ready. And after leaving it as a draft and not responding and talking to a few people close to me, talking to my husband, he's like, are you kidding me? Do you know what this could do for you, for the future of, our kids being able to see their mom in this position, for all the little girls that grew up listening to, like me, Vin Scully and Chick Hearn, and I mean, just amazing males, but like, you get the opportunity to start that. It's like, you better do this. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't think I was quite ready, but you know what? I'm like, let me just take a chance and let me just go with it. If they're approaching me with the opportunity, then they must see something in me, even if I don't see it in myself. So I went with it, and years later, here I am. But trusting your gut and just going for it and taking those opportunities when they're given, I think can really help you as a woman advance in this industry.
Thank you so much for that answer. My next question is for Mark. With working with big corporations such as Red Bull, Wilson, and Mattel, and big personalities like athletes and celebrities presents its own challenges, what are some things you've encountered while working with these high-profile clients that maybe weren't addressed in the classroom?
Yeah, I number one, I got a great opportunity early on in my career working at the Lakers for 2 seasons. I was there the first season that Shaq and Kobe were there. And lo and behold, I got assigned by my good old friend, John Black, to Shaquille O'Neal's locker for pregame and postgame. So I got to be around Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, at the time he was about as big a star as there was in sports. He continues to be a mega star to this day. And so being around these athletes, that was really helpful for me, because for me, whether I'm talking, with athletes, it's 2 different things. Corporations is one thing, athletes is another, or celebrities. With athletes and celebrities, number one, you got to act like you've been there. If you're treating them like an athlete and a celebrity, I think you fall into a trap where you're probably like 99.9% of the other people they deal with, being coddled, being catered to. And in the situations I'm in, I'm working with athletes. They're a tool for me. They're typically been hired as a spokesperson or to attend at an event. They have a job to do, and my job is to make sure they do it. So when I'm getting in with them, I'm a professional. I don't care who it is. I don't want an autograph. I don't want a picture with them. I have a job to do, and they do too. And I'm going to make sure they do. There's a story that a lot of my coworkers who've worked with me over the years tell, representing DirecTV for 16 years. I worked with the Mannings every year and got to know them well. But in year one, their agent, great guy, Alan Zucker from IMG, we're on a call, and the Mannings were on the call too. And it was a briefing. I was telling them exactly what they had to do. We were going over messaging and message delivery for media tours we were going to be booking for them. And Alan started, putting all these parameters. Oh, well, we can't do this and we won't do this. And none of this stuff was in the language of their contract. I'd read it. And I remember saying, all due respect to Peyton and Eli, I said, but for the next week and a half, they're like plumbers for me. I am hiring them to do a job. And if they don't fix the plumbing, they have failed me. And that's all I'm concerned with. I said, so as much as I want to cater to you and make it real easy for them, I said, that's not the job. They have a bar they need to hit. This is what the bar is. And I'm expecting them to hit it. And I'll never forget, like, to this day, that sentence, I run into Alan Zucker, every few years, and it's like, oh, hey, it's the plumber guy. But it's a point, right? Like, if you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with Peyton Manning. I've always wanted to meet him, right? No, kiss of death. You don't want to do that. And then with corporations and clients that are VPs of marketing at corporations, I deal with many, right? And I've done it, hundreds of them. And my big thing is be the alpha, be bigger than them or as big as them. They come in, and if you're shrinking and you're not propped up and confident and running the show, it's a bad thing. They're hiring you and they are expecting you to be a specialist and an expert. And so you just have to kind of have an air about you, a confidence, to be willing to kind of operate at a level that's as high as they're at. So you got to kind of portray that kind of alpha vibe of being in control, of being the true expert in the room. And you gain respect instantly. And that includes being willing to tell them things they don't want to hear. As an agency person, that's my job, is to give unbridled, transparent counsel. A lot of times clients, I want to do this, and they're expecting to get on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, or they've got these grandiose visions of what should happen. Right out of the gate, I'm going to nip that stuff in the bud, and I'm going to tell them why that's not going to happen. But then I'm going to tell them what could happen. Or if they want that, I'm going to tell them how they need to get that. And it may not be what they're planning to do, or it may not be, they may not be investing enough money in something to actually make that outcome happen. And I'm going to give them the straight scoop. So it's just about being confident and treating them, the same way that you're the pro, you're the expert, your craft, and you're gonna guide them the way you need to.
Thank you, Mark. So next is for Michael. Can you talk about a time in your career as a young professional when you had a difficult moment and what you did to overcome it?
Sure. So obviously with 20 some years here, I've had numerous challenges. But I would probably say the most difficult thing that happened to me in my career turned out to be probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was about 10 years into my job. I was running PR for the Kings, traveling with the team every day, and I was in the vacuum of the team. And really, it's all that matters when you're in that vacuum. You're just so focused on the players, the coaches, management, winning and losing, all the things that come with that. And we had a change in management, and a new general manager took over, and he and I didn't see eye to eye. And he immediately began alienating me. He immediately didn't have my trust, and which I spoke about earlier, and he and I had a big disagreement on something philosophical, and he just shut me out, stopped talking to me. And this was the general manager of the team. So for the next 2 years, he didn't talk to me, and I had to do my job with a general manager and leader who was not even engaging with me or acknowledging that I was even there. So I thought I was going to get fired. I thought I was done. Luckily, I had a lot of equity there with other people in the organization, and I began to invest myself into the business and into the business side of the organization. And for the next 2 years, I kept doing my job. I was in meetings and around him, and just acted as if, and just dealt with it and just pushed through. after about 2 years, I was fully ingrained on the business side, and I realized there's a whole operation there that needs PR support, that needs publicity support and communication support. And I learned that side of the business for 2 years, stuff that I didn't know in the 10 previous years as being in the vacuum of the hockey team. So it opened my eyes to the fact that I can be of real value to the organization as a whole, and I don't need to be in that vacuum all the time. And then after 2 years, I got a call one day from that GM's office, and he asked to see me. And I went and met with him, and he acted like nothing had ever gone wrong with us. And he asked me to work on a project for him. And so I did. I jumped in with both feet, and I did the best job I could on it. And he was extremely happy with it. And from there, he and I rebuilt our relationship, and I got to go back into that world and lead that through 2 Stanley Cups, which was awesome. But what it taught me was 2 things. One, you have to be pliable, like Mark was touching on earlier. You have to be willing to evolve, change, go and learn other things, be willing to have your career go in a direction you don't expect it to go in. And then having that patience to go through that and stick with it, I think was extremely valuable. And then the last thing I'll say in relation to that is, because I went and spent that time and learned the business side of our organization inside and out, I was then given the opportunity that I'm in now. And I had the confidence of my leaders to bring me on board. And now I lead 6 departments. And it's because I know the entire business structure. I know the value that each department has to the other. And I wouldn't have known that stuff if I didn't use that difficult challenge to go and explore other things in the organization and make the most of it. And in the end, through patience, everything worked out for the best. And I couldn't be happier now than I've been in the 27 years I've been here. So, but that was a very difficult time and an immensely challenging time.
I think that's also a story of jealousy, because it's hard when you're as good looking as Michael is. I mean, it's tough. You know, people meet you at first and they're like, F this guy, he's too cool and good looking. And that was resentment. You know, that GM couldn't handle it. He had an ego and couldn't handle Michael being as badass as he is.
Well, he was a very complex guy, and he and I just didn't get off on the right foot. And I didn't earn his trust out of the gate, which I try to do with everybody. And over time, it worked itself out. And, you know, he and I had some unbelievable experiences together after we resolved everything, but it took some time. And I just needed to stay patient and continue to plow ahead.
No, I think that says a lot, because you won't always be liked in this industry, but you're not there to be liked. You're there because you love what you're doing. And then next, Christina, is there any obstacles in your career so far that sticks out to you that kind of shaped your mindset?
I could write a book on obstacles that I've gone through since getting to where I am, and I still have a ways to go. But I think one of the biggest things is keeping my composure and always being prepared, because one of the obstacles that I faced was to somebody saying, oh, look, like, what is she doing here? What does she know? Or who gave her a microphone? Or how could she possibly know about boxing? She's never boxed a day in her life. So, you know, those questions and things still continue to come up at times. But I think that if you're confident in your ability, if you're confident in your preparation, and you know what you're doing, you can overcome those obstacles, because it will show through the work, and that you're trying and you're genuinely there for the right reasons. I think all those things will come through and help you overcome those obstacles. But embarrassing, funny, not so funny story real quick. I was in a locker room doing an interview on live television with an athlete prior to his fight. I was the only woman in the locker room other than my makeup artist that was off camera to the side of me. And during the interview with the athlete, one of the team members pulled down his pants to try to moon me in the background while I'm doing my interview on live television. Would that have happened to one of my male counterparts? I doubt it, but they were trying to get a reaction out of me. They were trying to get a rise. They were trying to embarrass me. And to overcome, I mean, I just had to completely block that out, finish what I'm doing, carry myself professionally, thank him very much for their interview, walk out, find a way to compartmentalize whatever that obstacle is or that thing is, get through the task at hand, the job at hand. And then I got my car and I let it go and I cried about it. I'm not going to, shy away from that, because I felt like, why would they do that to me? What allowed me to or them. I thought, what did I do to make them think that that was okay? But there's obstacles like that we face, even just being a woman in this industry, that you just have to try to keep your composure, keep your cool, be confident that you belong, and kind of work through it. Because those stories about things that happen to women and in the sports industry and stuff are really real. But if you know who you are and you know you're there for the right reasons and you put in the work, people will have your back. And they will go to bat for you if anybody questions anything. So that's important too.
Yeah, being an expert, like she touched on, is critical. Christina, I'm sure, does her homework, does her research, and is extremely prepared, because she has to be with the obstacles that are in front of her. And it's the same thing Mark was touching on with the Mannings. Like he knew that contract top to bottom and was able to have the confidence to go into that meeting and push his agenda because he had done his homework. He was ready, he was prepared, and he had the confidence to go and deliver the message in the manner that he did. So just that preparation, doing the homework, and being an expert as you walk into any situation is critical to the success.
Thank you so much for getting personal with us and sharing those stories that you've had to overcome. I'm pretty sure those were very difficult moments in life. My last question that I have for you all, what is the best advice you've received during your career that's helped you get to where you are today? Mark, if you can go ahead and answer this question.
Yeah. Well, advice I got, I'll give you advice I got, but I'll give you advice I'll give. So advice I got was the internship thing, because it really did, I took it to heart, and I just got after it more than other people, and think about that. I was with one of the top 4 PR agencies in the world, and arguably the most valuable and prominent sports organization in all of sports as my internships. Now, granted, pretty fortunate to have those things, but I wouldn't be where I am today without those 2 things starting my journey. 2 things I'll tell you. One is be you. And wear it with pride and carry it like a flag in front of you. And I went back and said this when I was talking about interviewing and how I'm always looking to learn the personality traits, the things their mom and dad taught them, what's important to them. Whatever it is that is you, don't shy away from it. I don't care, nowadays, we deal with a lot of intolerance, whether it's sexuality, race, whatever it is. Do not shy away from who you are and come in that front door with pride. That will come through. It makes a powerful statement to somebody. Look at me. I'm full sleeve tattoo guy. And I walk into meetings, and 9 times out of 10, people are taken back a little bit, because they're expecting some corporate agency guy. But if I'm just a corporate agency guy, I'm almost an avatar, right? I'm not me. I'm just this kind of paradigm of what people expect me to be or what I think they want me to be. But where I'm at my most powerful is when I'm just purely and fully me. And so my advice to people is always, whatever those quirks are about you, idiosyncrasies, personality things, those are what's going to make you stand out and set you apart. And so be proud of those things. Have the confidence and the courage to wear it on your chest, carry it out in front of you, come in the door with it, because that's going to make you memorable. That's going to make you impactful, and it's going to differentiate you. And that's really critical, because a lot of people are trying to do what you're trying to do. So, but nobody can be you. Nobody can have those things and be who you are. So just make sure that that is kind of the tip of your spear. And that's what you enter situations with. Because I think at the end of the day, that uncompromising commitment to yourself is something that you can rest your head at night and sleep well and sleep peacefully and have peace of mind, that you didn't just do it, but you did it your way.
Thank you, Mark. Michael, do you want to add to that question?
Sure. As far as advice I've received from someone else, I would say it's something that's become a mantra for me, and that's patience is power. Patience is most needed when it's exhausted. And in this industry, it's a tough industry to break into. It's a tough industry to grow higher and higher and gain reward. And it takes time and it takes patience. And so many entry-level employees come through here and get spit out very quickly because they're not patient and they're not willing to wait for the right opportunities to come their way. And the expectation of reward is something that seems to be immediate. And it just doesn't apply, I think, in this industry. It goes back to, sort of that old school mentality Mark touched on, that, being willing to grind it out, being willing to go above and beyond, being willing to seek solutions for others, I think are key components to success. But in doing so, being patient and having that at the core of what you're doing will allow for ultimate success, I think, long term.
Thank you, Michael. Christina, do you want to add anything?
I feel like a broken record, but I can't help but continue to go by the adage of put the work in. People will sense the people that are not there to do the work and that just want to be there to meet a celebrity or be seen on a red carpet or get to be at a game or get to get an autograph or get their family tickets, or just they want to be on camera because they think that it's glamorous. Like, those people get weeded out as time continues to go on. But if you put the work in, people will recognize that and they will know that you are there for genuinely the right reasons. And also, never stop learning. You can never know everything that there is to know about a given field. Learn about the people that you work with, how to build those relationships better, your subject at hand, the sport as a whole. Go back and read a rule book or go back to your journalism books and read about things that can only continue to build your wealth of knowledge, because that's something that nobody can take away from you. And those are all tools in your tool bag that will help to set you apart from the other people who just go in there and get used to or are comfortable with doing what they've done so long because they've gotten so many reps in. But if you continue to build, to learn, and that goes to putting the work in, I think that's the best advice that I can give you.
Let me say one more thing too. It's seemingly mundane, and hopefully everybody on this call is getting this hammered into them on a daily basis at school. Learn to write well, okay? I cannot tell you how important and valuable written communication skills are going to be. It could be a cover letter, an email, whatever it is you're doing, it will make an impression. I'm in PR. You would think I'd have everybody coming in the door be capable of sentence structure and concise writing and all of these types of things. That is not the case. I spend a lot of time now in my 25th year doing this, rewriting press releases. And it's discouraging. And I just don't know that people invest enough in that skill. But written communication skill, I mean, and verbal as well, it's really important, but written communication, I feel like it's a dying art. So if you take the time and invest the time to get better at that, then props to you, because I just think it's invaluable.
I think that's awesome, Mark. I think that's brilliant advice for everyone here, that everyone here can invest in, is developing that skill. It is critical. All communication now is written. We hardly, like, thank God we have video chats now, but like for, texting, email, like there's just so much written communication. And if you're not skilled in that area, it sticks out pretty quickly. And it's not efficient. So being a good writer enhances efficiency.
Even drafting captions on Instagram or quotes on Twitter. If you're working in PR and branding, if you're representing a brand on their social media platform and you have a typo, you have something that's controversial, something that doesn't make sense, like it could be 2 sentences that could cost you your job. So to that point too, even on my platform and putting out something, if I don't put into context something correctly written in a caption about an athlete, it could be bad. So it goes anywhere from a full entire press release to a 2-sentence caption. If you're working for someone's social media or branding, that could cost you your job if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah, it's true. I am still copywriting for the organization. Even in my role, I'm writing because we don't have the skills underneath to provide it. So I do it because it has to be, I want to make sure it's done well and it's done right. And it's unfortunate we don't have a lot of skilled writers.
Thank you all so much for answering my questions and the advice that you gave out with those questions. I'm sure they will all be helpful to the students here. But now we're going to be opening up the floor to the questions from the students. Anyone out there, please feel free to leave any questions you have for them, and Caitlin will be asking them for you all.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Taylor.
Hi guys. So my first question for you guys, I'm going to kind of combine two of the questions I received in chat. They're both from Noah Garcia and Mitzi Vasquez. Is there a specific trait you feel is necessary that aside from just being generally well-rounded and kind of morphing into what you guys were talking about earlier with internships? How can someone stand out in their internship to receive that job offer? I will direct that to Mark.
All right. Well, I'm just going to pare it back. A lot of things that have been said by all three of us on this call. One is, I think demonstrate that you're a grinder. Christina, she was a broken record, but for darn good reason, because you just got to show that you're willing to not just do the work, but to do more than the next person. There's just, again, I'd love to say that it's rocket scientry and there's some like super altruistic or spiritual thing you got to do, but it's not. My dad told Mike and I when we were kids, I love saying this quote, I say it all the time. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you dig ditches, be the best damn ditch digger there ever was. And it's just about putting in the work. That's what my dad was talking about, is grind. Be willing to do more than the next person, be willing to do more than is expected of you. Over deliver. I'm an agency guy. I keep clients long-term because we continuously over deliver on what they're expecting. Think about that in your life. If you over deliver for somebody and if you exceed their expectations, I don't care what part of your life it is, that never ends up bad. And so to me, it's a really simple trait that any of us, doesn't matter, where you're from, how much money your family had, what school you go to or didn't go to, anybody can do that. And so that's first and foremost. And then the second thing, learn how to write well.
Definitely. Michael or Christina, did you guys want to add anything to that?
Michael, you can take if you have anything else about what you look for when people are interviewing with you. I think you're muted though.
Yeah, nothing on top of that. Specifically, just once you have your foot in the door, it is important to go above and beyond. Like Mark said, don't just do what you're assigned to do. Look for how you can take things to another level. Use your own curiosity. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to seek other ways of doing things. Just because you're given a directive, you certainly want to deliver what's being asked of you. But if there's a way through your own curiosity that you can make it bigger and better than it is because of your own instincts, you got to trust in that as well. And be visible. If you have the opportunity to work in an organization like Mark's firm or here at the LA Kings, like walk in the door, look as professional as you can, be on time, be visible. And be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go to leadership and inquire. Don't be afraid. You're in the door. You're in those offices. Don't be afraid to say, hey, could I schedule 15 minutes of your time to just pick your brain a little bit? And I always admire the younger entry-level people that come in and they're seeking my counsel because it just tells me they want to improve. They want to get better.
Definitely. Thank you guys for your advice. Our next is from Mylea. Are there any red flags for jobs that we should watch out for as beginners in the industry? Any of them can answer this one, really.
I don't know if I understand that question.
Let me look at.
It's are there any red flags that you guys can kind of like seek out in the industry that we should watch out for as beginners?
For me, working in sports and being a woman working in that industry, always be on alert for somebody if they make you feel uncomfortable. That's really important. If they look to make an advancement or an advance in your direction that you don't feel comfortable with, that's an immediate red flag. If someone wants to do an interview in their home or wants you to dress a certain way, or I know these things sound obvious, but when you're young and you're hungry, you're trying to get your foot in the door, you'd be surprised what people kind of put up with and deal with. Also, if somebody tries to tell you what questions to ask or what they do or don't want to talk to, you got to kind of pick and choose your journalistic integrity in that regard as well. A lot of people do have PR people, and there's certain things that you should discuss with them ahead of time so you're not burning bridges or you're not asking or talking about things that you shouldn't. But I would just say kind of just be on alert, keep your head on a swivel, and make sure that you are carrying yourself in a certain way, and you are aware always of your surroundings. I think those things are really important. And when you're being recorded and when you're not, because you can be careful for a hot mic and say things that you don't want to be said, and then it's out on the internet and the world forever. So red flags, if someone's trying to record you or get you caught up in a situation where you're not prepared or ready to speak, you can always decline those opportunities.
Another red flag, I think, is to be mindful of other people's behavior from a standpoint of don't get sucked into a world of gossip. Don't get sucked into pointing fingers at other people, holding resentment for other people's success. Everybody's in there to be successful and be successful together. And some people rise quicker than others. And if you become part of a conversation or a gossip group, so to speak, all of a sudden you're going to get a reputation for someone that poisons a culture or contributes to negativity inside. So really keeping, your relationships well-rounded and contributing to everyone and every all areas of the organization, I think is critical. If you get put into a clique and then that clique gets labeled as, like I said, people that are always pointing fingers and gossiping, staying out of that sort of toxic environment, I think is really important.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this one, thinking of anything. Being an agency person, I guess the only thing I can think of, which is relevant today, is, a lot of people are using job apps and job sites and things like Glassdoor. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Glassdoor, but it's a job app where you can find out about, job openings and such, but it's also a place, it's almost like a Yelp, where former employees and staff can go and critique their place of work. And when you go there, I will just tell you that 90% of the commentary you see is hatchet jobs. And these are always disgruntled people. And I would just say, red flag, take all that with a grain of salt. Look at it realistically, because 9 times out of 10, you don't know what the dynamics of that person's experience at that place was. They might have been the problem. They might have come in wanting things easy and they're being asked to do more and they felt that it was too much. Or they might have, I even know for me, I'm really direct. I like people to tell me how I'm doing, good or bad. Don't sugarcoat it, because if I have the true factual information, as hard as it might be to hear, that's valuable. I can use that. I know how to pivot off that and get better and do something differently or better. But you know what? I found being a manager that way is a double-edged sword, because a lot of people have a hard time with that. Someone gets really direct with them and says, I'm going to be real specific. This is exactly what you're doing wrong and why you're doing it wrong. And it's like, oh, like I'm not coddling them enough, or then their neurons just kind of misfire because they're not used to that. But ultimately, I think I'm doing what is best for them, and frankly, what I would want to have done for me. So I think you got, if you're using job sites and you're looking at these things, just take that feedback you're seeing in those comment sections with a grain of salt. You don't know until you experience it yourself. So I think you just got to be wary of that stuff.
Right. Take everything with a grain of salt. I think that's something you can apply to every part of our life. We only have time for one more question, so I will ask this one from Will Wyman, who's a journalism major here. This is for Christina. How do you get reps early in your broadcasting career to help you advance in your role as a broadcaster?
That's a good question. It's a common question because reps are really important. I value my journalism degree and everything that I learned in school. I went to Santa Monica College after and took a specific sports broadcasting class to get my reps in. And now more than ever, you can get your reps in on your own social media platform, start your own YouTube. There's a Kings game. go outside. I almost said Staples Center, crypto.com arena, take your microphone, and set up your camera on a tripod, invest in some equipment, ask for it for Christmas, whatever you can do, your iPhone on a tripod, and try to say, hey, everyone, this Saturday, we're outside Staples Center, or we're outside crypto.com arena where the Kings are taking on the Ducks. Today's game is huge because just say stuff into the camera, say stuff into the mirror, hold your brush and practice, get the reps in, do a post-game wrap-up on your Instagram live after watching an Angels game about what you think they did well. Do your own post-game show and post it. It's just about getting comfortable talking on camera. Start a podcast. Any and everybody can have a podcast. Get someone else that you like to talk sports with, or entertainment or news or whatever it is, and do your own wrap-ups and post it, so that when somebody does ask to see your resume, yes, it is about the paper part, but more so in broadcasting, it's about your reel. It's about how comfortable you are on camera. It's about how you come across. So start to get those reps in yourself. Go to these events, even if you can't get in because you can't take your own camera, and just go to ringside and start to do an interview. But you can build it from going outside an arena, things like that. So that would be my best advice, is really just start recording yourself and start doing it, and save your best stuff, and then clip it together into 3 minutes of something that you can put together. That if I wanted to send it to Michael and say, hey, I know you're looking for a new in-arena host, these are some things that I put together, at least let him see. Don't make him visualize what you could do on camera. Show him on a clip reel of something that you can do, and let him see your energy. Just even if it's not anything that's been on TV, you need to start putting that stuff onto a tape.
Yeah, and for those who are looking for play-by-play and experience things like that, especially at the university, you go to the University of Sports Information Office and see if they'll give you a seat at games in the press box, and call the games and get those recorded. Countless times I gave young aspiring broadcasters a seat in our press box and let them practice their skills. Got Steven Nelson, he's now on MLB Network,
Yes.
and play-by-play guy. He was doing that at
Mhm.
Kings games back 25 years ago. So he's just one example of many. So you have to really hustle to get the ability to build up your reel and your reps, but it can be done.
Thank you guys, and that's going to be it for our Q&A session. So I'm going to hand it back to Taylor right now.
So I just want to thank you all again, Mark, Michael, and Christina, for doing this session with us. This was an amazing session that we all got to just gain more knowledge and insight from you guys. Like you all talked about networking and being prepared, and how just you don't even have to go for the position you want, but just to be in the same facility of the people that you want to work with and be next to. And sometimes you just have to grind it out and do what you have to do to meet them, and then potentially just get into the positions that you want to do. Also, that in this job and in any other probably PR industry, there are times where you're going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have to work with people that are not the nicest, and it's going to be a bad work environment, but you're there for you, and you have to persevere to get to where you want to be. When you all were talking about the obstacles that you were overcoming, and how to not cut corners and just build a great reputation. I know in PR, maybe we're all taught about image and how that's so important, and how that's gonna go with you, especially in this day with social media and the connections that you make, because if they have one thing bad about you, they might not talk so nicely about you to the next person, or vice versa. They can talk so highly about you and get you that job that you want. And learning how to write well. We all hear it from our professors, but it's great to hear it from you all that writing is really what we need to hone down in our craft. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us for session 2. I hope you all learned something from these amazing panelists. Before we leave, I just want to give a special shout out to the rest of the JPR Day Committee, Juan, Kaylee, Giselle, Juliana, American, Cameron, and Caitlin, and also to our amazing advisors, Robin Jones, Jennifer Fleming, Dan Olson, and Jennifer Newton. We wouldn't be able to have this event for our JPR department without them. But JPR Day is not over yet. We still have the JPR Department Award Ceremony, which will begin at 12:30. The award ceremony is a different Zoom link, so we'll make sure to drop that in the chat. All JPR students are invited to attend. Thank you all again for coming for session 2, and we'll see you at the award ceremony.